Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Daily Sib, a bright, sunny day in Cambridgeshire, at least. And really interesting topic today, actually. We're going to be getting more political and more rightsy. Obviously, the point of the Daily Sib is looking at inclusion in all its beautiful parts of the jigsaw puzzle. And we do business, we do sports, we do entertainment, but the politics is a very important part when we look at the history of disability rights. But also, we're going to be speaking to someone that I think is a sort of new face and name on the block. I came across Ginny's article in the BBC a couple of weeks ago. I've seen various posts on social media around that time as well. But I think also, whilst the importance of the politics is the same as ever, I think it's great to hear from people like Ginny and that their experience as a younger activist as well. So first of all, thanks for joining me today, Ginny.
Hi, Martin. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. And as I say, the big thing that raised my awareness of you and your work was the article on the BBC. I mean, first of all, just give a little background in general, to you and your disability and anything you've been doing with studying and activism, and then we'll get into the meat of the topic afterwards as well.
Okay, cool. So, so like you say, I'm kind of young. I'm 22 and I live in the southwest. So, I've been studying for a number of years. Studying law actually. So I did a law degree, and then I've just finished a master's in law with a legal practice course. So I'm hoping to become a solicitor, something like that, or go into the legal world in some sense. We'll see what happens. But basically, just in recent months, I've tried to sort of pick up my activism and, work on that side of things, especially as I finished my course, and I just thought it'd be a great thing to do. And then, like you said, it kind of really started with this BBC News article about how disabled people have been disproportionately dying from COVID-19. And that's how it all started. So now I'm sort of working on that. And in terms of my disability, so basically I have a genetic condition, and the effects of this mean that I'm a full-time electric wheelchair user, and I have a tracheostomy, as you can see in my neck, which is a tube, and it's connected to a ventilator, and that breathes for me all the time. And because of that, I have to have two carers with me at all times, or as I call them, personal assistants, PAs. So I have two PAs with me at all times, and that's my situation, really.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you for that little positioning of your background and where we're going to end up discussing things today. So, I mean, I think the first thing to just mention is, obviously, I'm fascinated with blogging and social media. It's how I started out. I was working at a charity in London, but no one would have known my name and my face, and then just started sharing my experiences and the whole blogging world. And it is such a fascinating tool to bring people from wherever we all come from, wherever we all start, to suddenly be thrust into sort of mainstream media, mainstream narrative. So with the BBC article, how did that happen? How did you end up being involved in that?
So I think there was a reporter on Twitter. Either someone told him my name, or I think she may have just contacted me. But basically, she was looking for someone, preferably like a woman or a female person, just to speak about the ONS, Office of National Statistics, stats, which came out, which showed that disabled women were roughly 11 times more likely to die from COVID than their non-disabled peers, and disabled men were roughly 6 times more likely. So she was looking at the disparity between men and women there, and so she was focusing on the statistic about women, actually. So she was looking for someone to just address that statistic and just discuss why not really why, I guess I mentioned that a little bit, but more just how it feels to be a woman, a disabled woman during the COVID crisis, and how that statistic makes me feel and impacts my life.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so in the lead up to, being connected with this journalist on Twitter, what had you been doing around sort of, campaigning and speaking up that meant they, because obviously there's other disabled women that could have shared their story. Had you been blogging for a little while before that?
No, I haven't actually. I
Really?
don't even know how to answer your question, because that was kind of the first time that I had any contact with the media.
Wow, that's so
I have
interesting.
been on Twitter, but only for a short time. I think I joined in February. Well, obviously, I've been working with Dr. Amy Kavanagh with Staying In, which is like an accessible online platform for disabled people to connect during COVID. So there had been a little bit of that going on, and I've spoken about that. But I don't know why she chose me. I can't answer that question.
No, I mean, I think it's there's never one reason, right? But I think there's something just interesting around digital media and the giving a voice to people and all that sort of stuff. But I guess in a way you've touched upon, you also were supporting and working with someone else in the field, and so that probably was part of the connection. But I mean, either way, it's great that as you've been studying and getting more aware about rights and the political side of the rights as well as the legal side, that you had that platform to share. And it's something else that interested me about that article and some of the narratives around it was, I've got people sort of in my world that are not in the middle of disability rights, so that they're not disabled and they're not so much activists. And I think we've seen a lot of change this year around, Black Lives Matter has been way more thrust into the mainstream and looking at systemic racism. There's been a lot in the news the last year around particularly transgender rights, obviously disability, all the protected identities. There's always been issues and discrimination and trying to get equal or equity to society. But I definitely started to hear some noises of like, oh wow, but is this not, when it's looking at something specific like a disabled woman or a gay disabled person and all the intersectionality, as I've written down the bottom, like some people don't get why that's even a thing or why that's necessary. And yet you've just said the statistic from the ONS was not only disabled people disproportionately affected by COVID, but disabled women were more affected than disabled men. Do you, first of all, do you know why that might be the case, that it was more of a risk for disabled women than disabled men?
Well, so the answer is no. I haven't done any, scientific research into that topic.
No, but the first step's raising awareness, isn't it, as well? So it's that, let's find the answers,
Yeah. But I think there's something to be said, hypothesizing here, but we all know that there's medical bias, and that's a thing. And it's widely known that there's medical bias towards women. So in the sense that, let's say doctors, just as a cover for medical professionals, let's say doctors, they just don't believe women when women talk about their pain levels, when they suggest what diagnosis they might have, when they suggest that they're feeling ill or sick. Doctors just ignore women, and they give them less pain medication, they give them less attention, they're slower to treat them, and they doubt their credibility, and they just deny that they're sick or ill or in pain. So if you take that well-known phenomenon and then you add the extra thing of being disabled on top of being a woman, then you absolutely can see there's going to be a high level of medical bias towards disabled women. Disabled people in general, including men and women and all non-binary folks, have this problem when we tell medical professionals how we feel, we're just not credible. They need to talk to our carer or our mum or our dad. We're not a credible person to talk about our own bodies. We're deemed to not know what we're talking about. We're deemed to be immature or naive or maybe not have enough cognitive function. These things aren't true, but that's what medical professionals assume about disabled people. So if you combine that with a medical bias known to be a thing towards women, now you've got a disabled woman telling a doctor that she's feeling sick, feeling ill, she's in pain. My gosh, you're going to come up across a lot of denial and gaslighting and just just not helpful things.
Yeah, and so actually it's not that we're trying to create new communities and new groups and new labels for the sake of it. It's actually as simple as if you're a woman, there are the things you've just described being problematic, and if you're disabled, there are these things that are more problematic, and you put that together, someone like yourself who has both of these identities, if you like, then it's exacerbated. You've got that double discrimination, that double difficulty. I mean, I think something that's fascinated me, so as I mentioned, I love the whole way that we've got the internet, we've got the sort of, Twitter as a way of connecting with like-minded people, and we've got not just Twitter but other ways of connecting with sort of someone in government or someone in a business or someone in a large charity. So you've got that connection of community, but you've also got that potential way of bridging to where the systemic part lies. But it feels like it's easier said than done to take awareness raising and result it in actual change. So from your studies and from your general perspective, like from that BBC article, was there anything sort of tangible that you saw, or going forward, what tangible ways do you believe we can take activism but create actual lasting change at the back end of it?
Yeah, that's such a good question.
It's easy to answer the question, right? But just your thoughts and ideas as well. Just very interested to hear.
Yeah, that's definitely such a key to, social media and writing and blogging is good, and it gets people to read about it, but you're absolutely right. Like, things actually need to happen as a result of these things. So I saw after that news article that, the Disability News Service, DNS.
John Pring, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There was an article on that website about a group of academics who were asking the government for a specific review into these ONS stats, as to why disabled people were disproportionately likely to die from COVID-19. So I know that a review was asked for. I don't think anything has come of that as of yet, because I know from the mainstream media that other people, non-disabled people, have been asking for government reviews into just their general policies around COVID-19. So for disabled people to get a specific review, I think we're going to have to fight and wait a bit, really. We're always on the low end of the priority list, I think, so we might have to wait a bit for that. But in terms of just generally getting stuff done, so I haven't really had any practical results from my writings or things like that yet. So for example, with the COVID situation, I did think of starting a petition, but I know that other people have done that before, so I don't like to step on toes. I mean, like that. It's really hard. So hopefully we'll see some change soon.
Yeah, I mean, I would contest that, you said about having sort of results of writing, and particularly around COVID-19. I think having a voice and raising awareness and connecting with people in a similar experience is a tangible result. I think the question was obviously, how do we take that into then policy change, etc., etc. But I think equally it's amazing to have people like yourself that do share experiences and write, and that is part of the process. So I think you've already done a lot of amazing positive things, and I think to some degree we can all stick to our strengths and our passions, and if we keep going consistently and regularly, maybe the change, like if you look back at decades and generations, a lot has improved. There's still things that are not good and we need to improve more. But I think that there is a change over time, and we would all just want it now and a lot quicker, right? But yeah, I just wanted to make that point that I think, the doing the writing and the publishing is already a very positive, tangible thing. I mean, yeah, could you just share a bit more about that? Obviously, we talked about the BBC article, but a bit more about your writing in general.
Sorry, that was my dog.
Don't worry, I've got a dog, and he often joins me on the daily sib as well. Do you need to go and answer that, or will someone else do it?
No, it's good. My PA can.
Yeah, cool. No worries, no worries. It's the beauty of live interviews. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, while Ginny just gets Ginny, start talking when you're ready. Okay.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay, you're good now. I was going to fill for a minute or two, but if you're back, crack on.
Okay. I forgot what your question was.
But just more about your writing. Just about that.
So, yes. So I've been doing some writing recently. I wrote a piece. So I quite like writing about my own personal experiences. Obviously, I think that's always best. You don't want to try and write about other people's experiences when you don't know what you're talking about. It always goes wrong when you try and do that. So I'm trying to stick to my own experiences. So I've written a piece about having a tracheostomy and having a ventilator, and that was quite good. So that went on HuffPost. And I quite like talking about having a tracheostomy because not many people have one. It's a relatively rare thing to have or to find. Some people have ventilators, but not always with the tracheostomy, and some people have tracheostomies, but not always with the ventilator. So having the combo is kind of a unique thing that I can talk about. So I wrote about that, and then I have written about my wheelchair. And so that went on Elizabeth Wright's publication, which is called Conscious Being. And I wrote about how my wheelchair, in my opinion, is part of my body. And I don't know how you feel about that, but I just really wanted to express that feeling. I know that people in the past have written pieces before about how their mobility aids are really important and about not touching them, but I really wanted to express this feeling of having that mobility aid be part of me, be part of my body, or perhaps an extension of my body. And then I wanted to address what that means in reality and how people should deal with my wheelchair or treat my wheelchair as a result of that feeling. So, I expressed in this article about the common thing, which is please don't touch my wheelchair without my consent. Please don't use me as a piece of furniture or as a foot without my consent. Because it just feels like I'm an object. My chair is an object, which it's not just an object. And then I expressed this idea of just being cognizant of where I am in the room and just treating me, allowing me to have my personal space. Because I think that as a society, we give non-disabled people personal space and we allow them to move and we don't get too close to them, but that doesn't really happen. In my personal experience, that doesn't really happen with me and my wheelchair. I'm walked into a lot, bumped into, people fall over me, they lean over me and knock my controller, like go zooming across the room. It's not fun and it's not pleasant, and it just makes you feel like you're being observed, but not really seen, and people are not affording you the same rights and respect as a non-disabled body gets. So just wanted to address that, really.
Yeah.
And today I wrote a piece about my experiences at university as a disabled person. I just wanted to address the practicalities of going to uni and talk about some of the more bad things that happened in uni, such as like a little anecdote. In my final year at uni, so throughout my course, my university was pretty good, and it was alright. But I did talk about some of the issues I faced. But in my final year, we decided across the whole university, and I don't know why I'm laughing, because it's not funny, but that all disabled people, or rather people who couldn't use stairs, were not allowed to go upstairs in any of the campus buildings. So anyone who couldn't use stairs had to stay on the ground floor.
Right.
Even though they had lifts, etc. But
Yeah.
they reviewed their fire safety policy, and they deemed that was what they were going to do. So that was all fun and games. So I tried to confront that, address that. I tried to challenge that. I didn't get very far, and then I graduated, so it was a bit late by then. But yeah, that was pretty tragic. So I couldn't go upstairs, couldn't go to like cafes, libraries, etc., etc. So that was pretty awful, and I hope they've changed that. So,
Yeah, no, I mean that's it, because we sort of talked about the, COVID-19 is still unfolding, and there will be various inquiries, I would imagine, in all parts of the equation and across different parts of society in the coming years, and so that's quite a beast to tackle, and it still doesn't mean that we, as disabled people, and your perspective as a disabled woman, should be silenced or not speak out. But I think that resulting impact and change is a bigger one to tackle. But what you've just described there is still, I'm sure eventually that uni will wake up to how ridiculous that is, and they may, need an evac chair or a way of, because I'm sure part of it will be, I'm sure it's to do with health and safety, but it doesn't mean that someone should not be able to be access and have the access and be included into all the goings on upstairs. And by writing about it and raising awareness, that is how change happens. So I again just applaud what I was saying earlier, really, that the more we all disabled people do share these experiences of injustice or exclusion, I think it can and it does lead to change as a result of it. So I mean, I know we're doing the interview for about half an hour today. So for the last 5 or so minutes, 5 or 10 minutes, what's the future looking like? Obviously, you've done did you say you've finished your degree now?
Yeah, so I did the undergraduate degree, and then I just finished my master's. Yeah.
I've done the master's as well. Okay, and then obviously you're doing a lot of writing. Well, and I didn't quite catch the name of the community that you said with Dr. Amy Kavanagh. What was the name that you mentioned earlier?
Oh yeah, that's called the Staying In.
Yes, I've seen that on social media, and that's INN, like an inn as a pub or a hotel as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, bit of a pun.
I love a pun. I love a pun.
Love a pun.
Yeah, so no, exactly that. So that's I've enjoyed it. Maybe expand a little bit on that, but I was just going to ask kind of what your general plans and hopes are going forward as well.
Yeah. So at the minute, I'm definitely looking for a job.
Okay.
Anyone can employ me. This is a plug. Give me a job. So I'm on the job market.
What kind of? I'm sorry if you're about to tell us anyway, but what kind of work are you looking for?
So basically, paralegal work in the southwest in Devon. But really, anything at the minute, anything to do with writing or researching or anything like that, academia, I can do. So I'm looking for a paralegal role at the minute. It's not going great because of the old coronavirus.
Yeah.
So, but everyone's struggling at the minute with jobs, aren't they? So I can't really know. So that's my current thing. I have a couple of not a couple. I have an internship coming up, so hopefully with a law firm.
That's good.
Yeah. So hopefully that might into a career. But in general, I'm hoping to enter the legal field and do a training contract, which is what you have to do to become a solicitor. That takes 2 years, and you need to do it with a firm that offers a training contract. And this training contract would hopefully be with a firm that specialises in something like housing or the property market, or I have a big passion for environmental issues and how that links with urbanisation and our urban environment. So I'm looking to enter that. There aren't a lot of firms in the Southwest, according to my research, that specialise in things like civil rights and disability.
Yeah, it's the big smoke of London is where I imagine more of that happens. Although, I mean, I guess the whole remote working thing, like you could be at home in Devon but work for a company in London.
Yeah. I mean, this is always a possibility, which I'm looking into.
Yeah.
Not so far, but there are a few firms in Bristol, I think, specialising in disability rights, civil rights, that sort of thing. So there might be something that way. But we'll see. But in the meantime, I'm trying to keep myself busy with writing, as you say, and then doing the staying in. So obviously it's Amy's project and Amy's creation, but I've just been helping out a little bit with hosting some of the sessions for the staying in. So like a disability advocacy session the other day, I was helping out with the tech for that. And then we had a session about using technology as a visually impaired person or as a blind person. So I was helping out with that session. Not speaking, obviously, because that's not what I would have any knowledge on. It's not my area. So I'm just helping out. So I've just been trying to get a little bit more involved in the disability community and socialising online and getting involved on Twitter and that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating because I mean, there's so many other tangents we can go down. You know, you sort of say about socializing online. I think for a lot of disabled people, we've needed to do that for a long while. Like for me in the winter, you know, it's harder to go out. If I get cold, I can't move. I'm wary of getting the winter flu, let alone COVID-19. All those sort of factors. We're quite used to this, and then the rest of the world sort of joined us for lockdown as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's fascinating, this kind of cultural dynamic, but obviously we don't want it to become an assumption that all disabled people want to work and socialize virtually. We still want accessible transport, accessible buildings, because COVID-19 one way or another will pass to some degree, and we'll still want, in the stronger days and months to be able to access the world. So it's so many things. I think we could go into other conversations. I'm mindful of the time though. Was there anything else you wanted to mention while we're still live?
No, not really. That was a great conversation. I think we covered quite a lot of stuff.
We covered a lot of ground. Yeah, no, it's very, very interesting. I think, I think the work stuff, I would just say to you that the internship's a brilliant idea. I had a degree and a master's, so similar level of qualification, but I know that the work experience and internships I did were equally valuable, because you learn a lot about yourself, about the world of work, and about what kind of things you want to do for the rest of your career. So definitely. I think playing around with that's a really good idea for you and anyone in a similar boat to you at the moment. I think, there are opportunities to work remotely. So there's maybe civil rights organizations further afield, but you can do it remotely. Someone that jumped to mind that's quite similar to you, did a similar degree and now similar work, is Emma Vogelman. Have you ever heard of Emma?
Yeah, I follow her on Twitter.
Yeah, I would probably reach out to her and have a video chat and just pick her brains, because I think you're quite similar trajectory to what Emma's done. And Emma actually did some work volunteered for us on Disability Horizons, and I know a bit like my point of the internship, it gave her lots of experience and insights, and then she went on to get paid employment in other places. So Yeah, definitely. I'd touch base with Emma. But yeah, just really keep going with the writing. And I think it's popped up on my Twitter that you like to unwind with a G&T. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Hence my name.
Is that by name and by nature, right?
Yeah, exactly. Literally. G&T or a margarita in a plastic cup. I don't mind. Yeah.
However, just get it in you.
Possible drinking. Okay. Yeah.
We'll love it. Well, listen. Last of all, how can people keep in touch and follow you? Where can they find you online?
Well, I have a Twitter, which is at Jimmy and T, and then I just set up a new website for myself, which sounds a little strange, but I did, for my advocacy and just to put my writings on there and things like that. So that's www.jimmybutcher.uk, and people can read all my articles from there.
And that's ginnybutcher.uk, yes?
Yeah, .uk.
Cool. Just double check that. And with the Twitter handle, did you say Ginny T?
Jimmy and T. Yeah.
Is that AND or ampersand?
AND.
Yeah.
T. Yeah.
So
Jimmy
Ginny and T on Twitter. Brilliant. All
Thank
right.
you very much, Mark. It was really fun speaking to you.
Likewise. It's lovely to connect with you, and give me a shout if I can help with anything going forwards. But yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your help.
Take care. And everyone, thanks for watching today. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. I'm actually not going to be on tomorrow. I'm going to probably take tomorrow off for the first time since April and go and enjoy this hot weather that we've got coming in. But yeah, I'll be back Monday for the next episode of the Daily Sib, and probably doing some random mumblings on social media somewhere as well. All right, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.